Ladies and gentlemen, whether you are a new fan of chess or one that has been around for many years, you should be well aware of the fact that basically every single day in the chess world, there is a new story. Every day, every week, every month, every year in the world of chess, there are memes and there are dreams. And it's currently May 2024, and the memes are very, very strong. We got some more of them delivered by first-class mail yesterday in the form of Magnus, best player in the world, playing 11 out of 11 games of the Chess.com Title Tuesday tournament by playing the A4 Rook A3 opening, better known as the banned Gambit, better known as the V-So opening. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, in a very, very brief synopsis, over the past week, a Grandmaster account was banned on Chess.com after extremely good results in an extremely dubious opening. That individual then took to Reddit and Twitter to talk about the fact that, first of all, revealing who they are, which is Grandmaster Brandon Jacobson, and saying he didn't cheat. And that is currently the story. Did he cheat? Did he not cheat? I'm not so sure. But what I am sure about is everybody is playing this absolutely idiotic opening now. And yeah, we're going to see how Magnus Carlsen did it. I actually played a little bit of this myself. Of course, the opening that I am talking about is playing A4 Rook A3 and promptly losing your rook. That is the opening, all right? Now, Mr. Visu, aka Brandon Jacobson, reached 3140, 3150, defeating Naroditsky, defeating other players in overall very, very good results. What would happen if Magnus Carlsen, best player in the world, tried this opening himself? Now, I'm going to take you through his tournament because he did this against 2500, 2600, 2500, 2800 Grandmaster, 2800 Grandmaster. Then we get up to the 2900s. My boy was playing this against some really, really, really good people. Let's see how he did. Now, game number one, he plays an international master who does not take the bait, all right? He doesn't take the bait. He kind of just develops his pieces and says, you know what? I don't want to get embarrassed by Magnus because I will anyway, so at least I want to put up a good fight. Now, meanwhile, Magnus just left the rook there. And I mean, this kind of shows the meta strategy of what to do if they don't take the rook. Magnus puts his bishops on the corners. By the way, this is just completely a free pawn. I have no idea what his idea was here. Maybe it was to play queen c1 or queen c2. And the thing is, if you don't take the advantage that Magnus is going to give you, well, he's going to... I love how the rook is just standing there. Like, he's going to outplay you over time, so you might as well try to play Magnus with an advantage. Now, to Black's credit, Black got a great position. And I think because Magnus was in full-on meme mode, he wasn't really trying his hardest. I mean, as you can tell, his opponent here finally decides to go for a tactic, which is giving up his rook to take another pawn, and now he's going to attack both of these rooks at the same time. But he forgot that he was playing the literal goat. So after queen a2 takes, Magnus has a bishop and a knight for a rook, which is very good. Black has two extra pawns, but it's probably not going to work. Knight takes f7 is a beautiful dynamite strike. Black blunders. You take the knight, I take the bishop. Now it's two bishops for a rook, and this is a completely winning position. And Magnus cleans it up, immediately goes to his favorite phase of the game, which is the endgame. All he needs is a couple of bishops and a couple of pawns. He wins the pawn. He wins all of that, and now the pawns are just going. It's a red carpet. Look at this. Look at that security escort to the end of the board. Beautiful stuff. He goes g6, g7. This disconnects the pieces, and he won this game by 2 minutes and a completely dominant performance. But his opponent did not take his rook, so we can't really evaluate what happened here. Well, what about this game? Well, in the first few games, his opponents were just not interested in the memes, which is really disrespectful. I mean, we have never lived in an era where the best chess player in the world logs on for nonsense blitz games and plays a5, rook a6. I mean, Garry Kasparov would never, all right? Fischer didn't know what the internet was, all right? I mean, like, these people, the internet didn't exist in 1972, right? I don't think it did. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, all right? Obviously it did. G6. Right? And White just plays a normal Catalan, and yes, some of Magnus's opponents were just not letting him have any fun. I mean, he had to leave the rook there, and then he was like, you know what, I just gotta beat you normally, fork, and, you know, he's just up a rook for a knight. He's Magnus freaking Carlsen. He doesn't get checkmated. He trades the pieces. He goes to his favorite phase of the game, which is the endgame. And, you know, in this game, it took him down to some pieces, but he won the bishop, and he won the game. But some of his opponents certainly wanted to participate in the memes. They wanted to participate. How is Magnus going to handle this opening? I mean, Brandon freaking Jacobson beats Daniel Naroditsky 40-29. He beat Darius Schwiert 16-4. I mean, what? Did he just reinvent chess? Is this like the greatest opening? I got to tell you, I played this opening myself. I won some nice games. Now, the thing is, losing a corner rook for a bishop is not such a crazy disadvantage in a 3-minute game with 0-second bonus time, but this opening sucks. On a high depth of stockfish, it's like an evaluation of 2.5 to 3. But the thing is, most people are human. Most. Some of you are cyborgs and NPCs, but most of us are human, and this is not the easiest position to handle, especially when you don't play it the proper way. You see, White is just sort of taking a weird setup, and by the way, for the record, Magnus plays this his own way. Magnus doesn't take instruction for anybody. You learn openings when Magnus plays them. He doesn't play them based on what anybody else says. Technically, you're supposed to play this opening by doing this. That's what you're supposed to do. And then this, and then this, and this. Magnus says, I'm going to play this opening however I want. I want to take the center. All right, I want to take the center. E5, knight d7, rook b1, and suddenly from the opening, there is almost no advantage whatsoever. And then here, Magnus has queen h4 check. He doesn't see it. Doesn't play queen h4. Queen h4 is not winning a piece, but it is winning a very important pawn. So Magnus would be winning another pawn, and now he has only a 1-point material disadvantage. He's actually better because he's going to put his knight on c4. But, the goat misses a fork because, he's in meme mode. But already from the opening, he takes on g1. You enter a tactical sequence, and bishop to a6 is on the way, and he's just going to win this game. So what went wrong in this game is his opponent played in a very silly way. I mean, his opponent kind of didn't put the knight on the most natural square, and then tangled up the center, and then, rook b1... I can't even explain this move. I don't even, and then Magnus just kind of wrecked the center, castled, and his opponent tried to get into a fight with him. It didn't work. Now he's pinned. Queen h4, queen h5. White's position is completely falling apart. Look at that. Queen b5, and, he's just going to clean things up. Rook c8. He could have played a little bit better, but as always, he goes to his favorite phase of the game. It's an endgame. White's king is out in the open. And he's going to lose all his pieces. And there we go. b2, b1. You can't stop it. Run from it. Try to hide. You can't. b1 is mate. And he won. Okay, but he's beating people who he is 700. Think about that. Magnus is 32-30. His opponent is 25-30. 700 points. Bro, you get to a point on chess.com, you beat somebody, you lose rating. You ever seen like those things? Like, if Magnus beats his opponent here, he gains 1 point. Did he gain a point for this game? I don't think he did. Like, if I refresh, did Magnus gain 1 rating point? He didn't gain a rating point. Did he gain a rating point for winning this game versus 2600? He did. He gained 1. You saw that? He gained 1 rating point. Did he even gain 1 in this game? Yo, that's nuts. He doesn't even gain a rating. Bro, imagine being so high rated compared to somebody else. They don't even give you a rating point. Oh my God, that's crazy. Okay, now in this game, he's playing a Polish Grandmaster, right? Polish Grandmaster says, I am not taking your rook. Notice how the other people didn't even have this option. Like, this person played a Catalan. Like, he didn't have the option to take. This person also didn't play that. Yo, they're too scared. They're not even taking. Like, that's how afraid they are, right? So now c4, he put a pawn to block his bishop. This opening, you're gonna get people who are just so unwilling to participate in their own potential embarrassment, which, for the record, is like, that's hard to do. You just saw the roast of Tom Brady. Like, it's not easy to volunteer for stuff like that. h4, h6, and in this game, his opponent just played very principled. Just said, okay, push. Magnus just unrelenting, dude. Unrelenting. And at this point, White's like, I have to take because I have nothing. So he takes. And then he goes to an endgame. So he thinks, I got a bishop for a rook. It makes sense to win the endgame. But he's playing the best endgame player of all time. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, 7 pawns for black, only 6 for white. Black is down. All right, black is down a point of material. It is a rook for a bishop and a pawn, but it's really difficult here. It's really difficult to make progress. Rook d2, he trades knights to try to make progress into the white position, and he just blocks. And then he plays a4, controlling the light squares. And then he wins another pawn. His opponent blunders the pawn on g2. Bishop comes back to e4, g5. Nice little counterplay. Not necessary. He could have just played knight c6, but he's trying to play quickly, put the pressure. The best move here is rook e1, which his opponent finds. Now Magnus goes here looking for complications, and all of a sudden he might be in serious trouble. So suddenly we have the early stages of what happens when this opening backfires. This opening is not like the second version of chess. This opening sucks. It's really difficult to play in a material disadvantage for that long. Pawn takes, rook d7. Now you gotta do Magnus magic. The king walks, what? Like, bro just walks his king out. Bro thinks he's walking his king for real. Pawn takes, bishop takes. He's just losing, knight c6. But, you know, it's nerve-wracking to get into a winning position against Magnus. So white is now down to less than 20 seconds. King goes back to f5. How are you gonna attack the king? It doesn't work. Rook f2, rook f7. I mean, it looks like maybe you're gonna win something. Nope. He defends himself, and now white is met with some very serious resistance. Magnus has two passed pawns. It's just a draw. It's a draw. All the material imbalance. It's just a draw, but white is going to get under 10 seconds. Oh, but now it's definitely a draw. I mean, it's kind of crazy you didn't take this here, right? This is just a draw. So now, I mean, if you're playing with white here, you could just, you trade the rook, you trade everything. You just sacrifice, and you just make a draw. But he's trying to win. He's not trying to make a draw. He's got the two rooks. He's trying to win the game. But ironically, so is Magnus somehow, and he wins. So Magnus wins this game in a ridiculous time scramble, and this is game over because you just make a queen. Okay, but in that game, in Magnus, you know, he had to work some serious magic. No pun intended. And at some point, his luck would start running out. In this game, Magnus played this opening against a very talented young player who ultimately did make the very difficult decision of capturing his rook. And now Magnus plays the Visu London. So Magnus plays a London system, but is down a rook for a bishop. I mean, you talk about the Ooga London. This is the Ooga London. Bro is just straight. He's playing a London, but there's no rook and there's no dark squared bishop for black. Crazy. Bishop b3, he just plays like normal. And now he brings the knight back to b1. Bishop g5. And now he plays this move to try to damage the pawns. His opponent is, I believe, one of the youngest grandmasters in the world right now, Ihor Semwenkov from Ukraine. Bishop f4, g5, bishop g3. Knight to e4, and from the opening, I mean, Magnus just got a dream position. Bishop for rook, right? Or at this point, it's knight for rook, but ultimately, in the beginning, it's bishop for rook. And he completely controls the position, and it's very difficult for black to break through. Probably at this point, it's just a draw. Like, there's really not much that can be done. You know, maybe black is going to make some sort of breakthrough. Because the person that controls the pawn breaks ultimately controls the game, but it's actually Magnus trying to make a breakthrough. Because he's Magnus. He plays every single game on the mode that he's probably going to win, queen e2. Here he could have played rook b3, but then he would have lost his a-pawn. He keeps poking, he keeps prodding, and they get into a tactical skirmish. Knight d6, and it's very complicated. But ultimately, even though Magnus is able to pick up some pawns, he's down a rook. May I remind you, he lost the rook on the 5th move of the game. And some 30 moves later, he's really going to feel it. He's going to feel that he's down a rook. In this game, that rook comes back to bite him. In the you-know-what, rook a2, bishop b7, and that's mate. So you either have to trade the queens now and suffer, Magnus goes here, but somehow there is no checkmate. And unfortunately, he has to make a draw, or fortunately. But he saves the game. He does not get mated. Mr. Semwenkov, second youngest grandmaster, or maybe third youngest grandmaster in the world right now, threatening a checkmate with the rook, by the way, that he was presented. He was given the rook. Yeah, now, and Magnus does have to force a draw. But, he's drawing, right? The other thing to remember is this is Title Tuesday. Brandon was playing this in 3-minute chess. This is 3+1. So, from this position, white wins 100% of the games if there is no bonus time. Unless you're playing them. But in Magnus's case, Magnus would win 100 out of 100 games from this position with white if there was no bonus time. But because it's Title Tuesday, there's bonus time. So beating your opponent, who's very young as well, very fast, probably not possible. And so this game ultimately ends in a draw. But there was more. I mean, this man was doing this relentlessly. Here's a game against the very strong Polish grandmaster, Kasper Piorin. This was, again, Magnus playing it in some very unique way. I mean, bro straight up just gave up a rook and played knight a3, knight c4, knight d2. He did a knight carousel, like merry-go-round. And then he played g3, bishop g2, and I mean, his position is awful. I mean, on a high depth, this is probably some -5. Like, this is a terrible position. The amount of odds that Magnus is giving his opponents here is disgusting. It is disrespectful beyond belief. I saw somebody on Twitter, they wrote something like, imagine, I mean, it's your one chance to play the best player in the world, and he's doing this to you. And it's like, sucks to suck, sounds like a skill issue to me. Knight e4, bishop e4, castles. I mean, white is down in exchange, black has the center, black has the activity, black has literally everything. Sometimes you say in chess, I'm down material, but I have compensation, like I'm compensating for it, right? In this position, black has the compensation and the material. Okay, queen d5, queen d2. I mean, black is doing everything perfectly. Now, what you do here with black, you play knight to e5, you trade a bunch of pieces, you win the game. Yeah, because if knight d4, you lose the bishop. If knight e5, you take the bishop, knight d3, you play bishop e4, you take. I mean, like, you just chop everything down. Maybe the knight goes to f4, you play some queen f5, queen c, I don't know. But you slowly win the game. But Casper just has to, you know, he plays h6, fine. h3, queen c5, okay, he's looking for his spot, rook c1, he's completely winning. He needs to play knight e5 at some point. Hesitating a little bit, h4, a5, okay, he's restricting Magnus, but he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything, right? Bishop f1, okay, and now Magnus starts coming backwards, so it becomes a little bit harder to trade. Now Magnus tries to trade, by the way, knight a2 is a wrap. It's a wrap. I mean, the position is losing. Takes, f6, okay, now the knight is coming alive, and, you know, maybe Magnus is, sacrificing a knight now. You do the math, white is just down a full rook. He's down a full rook. Absolutely nothing to show here. Rook to h7, kicks out the queen. Now let me attack. I mean, Magnus is just, you count the pieces, Magnus is down a rook. He's down 3 points of material, he has 2 extra pawns, but he's down a freaking rook. In case it's not clear, he's down a rook. Queen c3, knight f5, bishop h3, queen d5. But he's making it difficult. Now here, knight g3 just wins the game. Easier said than done. He plays knight d4. And he blunders that after queen d4, take, after the big trade. After take, there is bishop f5, which is a fork. Otherwise, he would just be winning. He would just have 2 rooks. I mean, he would just clean. Oh, no. Oh, no. So he doesn't blunder the fork, but he blunders this position. And now Magnus is just down a bishop for a rook, and he's, oh god, he's in the endgame. Okay, but at least this one's just gonna end in a draw. There's nothing that, yeah, I mean, very simply, you're gonna trade, just like, you're gonna trade the pieces, and oh, no, Magnus is working his magic, no. Oh, he blunders everything! King d5, and all of a sudden he's not winning anymore. Rook f, oh, you had to play rook h5. You had to do it in the other order, but you do it this way, and now you lose because, oh, man. Okay, Magnus was dead lost this entire game. I mean, how good is this opening? Now, granted, Magnus is not playing it in the meta way, right? He's not playing it like the right way, which is this way. He's playing it his own way, and you cannot lose more time. You know, black just got a completely dominating position. Oh, but Magnus still got it done. Now, here's a game against a 2940. This person doesn't have as high of a title as the previous player, but this is clearly a player that will get the Grandmaster title in the future. And this player plays the principled way. He plays like e5, and again, Magnus doesn't understand the theory of this opening, is not playing the opening the way it is supposed to be played, which is fianchettoing the bishops. You know, dedicated to the cause of doing it his own way. f6, bishop d7, and he is still down a rook for a bishop. It is just unbelievable. a4, all right? b3, solid stuff. Rook c1, queen e6. Oh, wow. Look at that. No queen for Magnus. Okay, because in the last game, he was trying to get some counterplay. White says, no queens. Knight d5, let's trade some pieces. I come into your position, you play defense. White is just much better. The imbalance remains rook versus bishop. No difference of pawns. Rook e1, which apparently is a very bad move, but king f7, and now Magnus begins pushing his pawns forward. Instead of leaving the position, I don't know why he didn't double. After knight takes c2, you trade the rooks, right? And then if king f7, you play rook c8. And maybe he was worried about losing these pawns, but Magnus is going to lose all his pawns too. He's going to lose all his pawns. So instead, I mean, I'm not saying I would have found it. I'm just saying that was the best move. Now Magnus, meanwhile, dancing, by the way, doesn't take a draw. Look, he had a chance to repeat moves. He could have repeated. Doesn't make the draw. And now starts trying to take over the game, despite being down material. He's still down material. He's much worse. It's still +2. G4, but suddenly the bishops are coming alive. White's got a lot of weaknesses, and he's got 30 seconds to figure them all out. Oh, no. He's taking over the game again. And White is paralyzed. He can't move. He can't move. Look at this. He just can't move anything, and bishop is coming to A6. Oh, my. Or F5. Oh, my. Oh, no. Oh, and now it is over. Look at... I mean, he can't move a single piece. He just can't move, and he resigns. So Magnus is beating these people in that middle to endgame phase, where for the best player in the world, this level of imbalance is meaningless in blitz games. In blitz games. In a 90-minute game, it might be a different story. That would be absolutely fascinating to see the amount of odds he would need. Now, Magnus did lose a game. I will show you that game. He got very close to losing several games. He got very close to losing the game that I just showed you against Pjorun. Got very close to losing this game. This game was nuts. I cannot believe he did not lose this game. This is against Ediz Gürel, Turkish grandmaster, who's one of the youngest in the world right now. I think he's like 15. And as you see in this game, White took the rook because this opening is garbage. Even though I, myself have had some success with it, it is completely ridiculous the way I'm beating my opponents. It's by like tricking them. Yeah, and I mean, as you see here, Ediz just plays straight down the pipe. I mean, really just straight down the board, marches into the black position. Magnus is forced to go to an endgame, and White actually lost some advantage, but then regained it back. Rook A1, bishop A1. Now he picks up this pawn, and it's over. I mean, he has a passed c-pawn and a rook for a knight. Like, this is, like, the game is finished. Absolutely finished. King E7, C5. You might have wanted to start with knight A4, just be patient, but okay, C5, knight goes to C4, rook A3, and he's just gonna win the game. And here Ediz says, bro, take the pawn, take it, I'm gonna feast on these pawns, you're gonna lose. Magnus plays king C5, knight to E3, and in this position, he finds one of the craziest defensive sequences I've ever seen. This is so absurd. So the knight is guarding the pawn. Rook can't take it, right? But the knight is hanging, so what do? Well, you move this knight to c6, okay. But the rook is just going to move along the 7th rank. Like, the rook is going to go there, and then the knight is still hanging. Yeah, but then this knight jumps back again, and then you cover your king with the other knight. You play knight to c6, defending this knight, which guards the pawn. And somehow the rook is trapped. No, but I mean, this is like witchcraft. I mean, this is... I don't know how he does this to people. This is... And now he won't lose a single pawn. He creates a complete barrier, and he won't lose anything now. And this rook is in jail. The rook is trapped in the jail. No, but this is... I mean, this is so sick. This is so sick. And now he might even play for a win. He's just not even... Okay, he lets the rook out, but now he goes in with the knights. He can win a pawn here with knight to e2, but it's too dangerous. If you take on f4, rook a7, knight g5, and it's probably bad news. So Magnus actually just ends up forcing a draw here. I don't think he wanted to. Like, I think if it was up to him, he would have played this for a win. He was under a lot of pressure here. White mishandles the endgame. He doesn't lose again. But Magnus did lose one game. He did lose one game, and it was against the Lithuanian grandmaster, Pultinivicius. And let's see how it happened. A4. All right, we have all the stuff, right? And lo and behold, this man plays the right setup. He plays the right setup. The same setup that Mr. Visu himself was using. But then instead of playing e3, knight e2, he plays knight f3, which we have seen is the technically incorrect approach. The meta seems to be that you need to put your pieces like this from the very famous 69-game match between one Daniel Naroditsky and Brendan Jacobson. Knight f3. The reason this is bad is White loses time. Knight to e5, and now you're going to go c5. Now here Magnus plays b4. to not allow black to play c5, so black plays a5, and then c5 anyway, and he's basically just winning time. And this just can't work. This can't work because you're just opening up a lot of lines, and black plays bishop d7. Now, white does implement the correct game plan, right? He does implement this game plan. But what the difference between this game and some of the other games is that Pulcinivicius did not sit around waiting for Magnus to lose. He did not shuffle the pieces. He just went after Magnus. He was like, look, I got to go out with a bang. I'm going to go out with a bang. h3, rook b8, taking the open file. Bishop c3, attacking the weakened pawn. He says, go ahead and take it. Go ahead and take it. Take the pawn. You can't really, because then I'm going to play h4. If you take, I got different attacking ideas over here. I mean, I'm not going to sack right away. It looks extremely dangerous. Actually, what if I do sack right away? My original thought was that the rook could just move away, but after queen h2 and here, you might even have e3. I mean, this looks awful. Awful. Very, very, very bad. So, yeah, that's what happens. I mean, he hesitates. Now Magnus has to start playing a little bit of defense. But in this game, unlike the other games, here his opponent was unafraid. I mean, he just sort of walked him down the board, played knight to h5, knight b1, he took. You can't really take because the knight is going to take. And I mean, we're seeing Magnus, he's the one down 40 seconds now. e3 shuts the door. This is a worst nightmare of this opening. I mean, Magnus has been able to trick and kind of duck and weave and get out of the way, but oh my, Pulcinivicius shut the whole thing down. I mean, he got the rook, he got the clamp, and all of the kind of issues of this opening get exposed in this game as black shuts down the entire center and hits him from every angle. I mean, it is a bludgeoning. Now, again, if Magnus did this on equal terms, it would have been extremely impressive, but he did play probably the worst opening known to humans. And his opponent punished him for it because... And still, Magnus was, threatening a checkmate. It didn't quite work. And now a gangster promotion to a knight. That's actually, I think, the best move, by the way. This is the fastest checkmate because it forces a reaction. And then when you take, I actually will not take back. I will play queen c2, queen d1, and then it's mate momentarily. So c1 knight, very nice conversion. And Magnus loses to Mr. Pulcinivicius. Overall, Magnus ended this title Tuesday with a score of 9 with 8.5. I think he drew 3 games and he lost 1. So he had 8 and no. Let me calculate. The last game that he played was against, I think it was Klimkush, which is the game that I showed you. I will calculate it. I think it was 9 points, but I might be wrong. So he won 1, he drew 3, and he lost 1. So, not bad. Drew 3, lost 1, which means he won 7, so 8.5. 8.5 points playing this opening. Which led him to lose a lot of points. It led him to lose like 30 rating points. So his performance was probably something like 2,900, 3,000 with this opening. Granted, the time control was 3-1. If he was playing these games in a different format, maybe he would have won some of these games. But that is the report. Now I might give you my report as well. I have played this opening a little bit just for the memes and the dreams. But that is how Magnus did with this opening. And we will continue to follow the storyline. Brandon Jacobson has since posted again. He's also saying that he was going to post on another social media platform. We'll see if chess.com puts out a Brandon Jacobson report. I have absolutely no idea what to expect. I am eagerly awaiting the next updates. I love the chess world because, my God, we cannot get out of our own way. It is incredible stuff. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.